The massive space station orbited the green and blue planet below. Inside the station, hundreds of beings from across the galaxy gathered in the main hall. Some had fur, others had scales, and a few looked almost like walking trees. At the front of the room stood Director Yilan, a tall alien with gray skin and 4 arms. "Welcome to the Galactic Survival Institute," Director Yilan announced. Her voice echoed through the hall. "Today we begin registration for our most difficult test ever." The crowd stirred with excitement. Aliens whispered to each other in dozens of different languages. Everyone knew about the survival tests. They were famous throughout the galaxy. Only the best survived them. "The planet below is Kepler 442c, Director Yilan continued. "It has forests, mountains, rivers, and dangerous weather. Your job is simple. Survive alone for 30 days. You get basic tools and nothing else. No technology, no help, no contact with anyone." She paused and looked around the room. "The winner gets 100,000 galactic credits. More important, you get certified as a survival expert. This opens doors across the galaxy." Marcus Thompson stood near the back of the hall. He was a 34-year-old human from Colorado on Earth. His brown hair was cut short and he wore simple clothes. Around him, aliens discussed the challenge in worried voices. Some looked scared. Others looked excited. "The death rate is less than 1%, Director Yilan said. But many contestants quit early. Last year, 60% activated their emergency beacons before day 20. This is not a game." Marcus had grown up camping and hiking in the Rocky Mountains. His father taught him to hunt and fish. His mother showed him which plants were safe to eat. He learned to build shelters, start fires, and find water. These skills seemed normal to him. He did not know they were rare in the galaxy. An alien with thick fur raised his hand. "What tools do we get?" "A knife, a small axe, rope, a metal pot, and a fire starter," Director Yilan replied. "That is all. Everything else you must make or find yourself." The alien looked worried. "What about shelter materials?" "You build shelter from what you find. Sticks, stones, leaves, whatever the planet provides." Marcus smiled. He had built log cabins with his grandfather using only hand tools. This would be fun. Registration took 3 hours. Marcus filled out forms and took medical tests. The doctors seemed surprised by his physical condition. Humans were not well known in this part of the galaxy. "You are very strong for your size," the doctor said. She had blue skin and 6 fingers on each hand. "Most species your weight cannot lift this much," Marcus shrugged. "I work construction back home." "Building keeps you strong. Construction?" The doctor looked confused. "You build things? Houses, bridges, roads?" "Humans build a lot," the doctor made notes. "Interesting. Most intelligent species stopped building by hand when they developed technology." Later, Marcus met some of the other contestants. Jake was a Grimlock warrior from Kepler Prime. He stood 7 feet tall with gray skin like stone. His muscles were huge. "Human," Jake said in a deep voice. "I have heard of your species. You are new to space travel." "Pretty new, yeah," Marcus agreed. "We only made it to other stars about 50 years ago." Jake nodded. "Grimlock have survived on harsh worlds for thousands of years. This test will be easy for me." Marcus met Lisa next. She was Velthari from the Vega system. Her skin could change colors like a chameleon. Right now it was green with brown spots. "Velthari are the best hunters in the galaxy," Lisa said proudly. "We can become invisible. We know every plant and animal. Survival is our nature." David was the 3rd contestant Marcus spoke with. He was Nixari with pale skin and large eyes. His species was known for being very smart. "I have calculated the optimal survival strategy," David explained. "Minimum energy output, maximum resource conservation. I will build one simple shelter and stay there for 30 days. "What about food?" Marcus asked. "I brought nutrition tablets," David said, then stopped. "Wait, no. We cannot bring anything." He looked worried. "I must recalculate." The next morning, all contestants gathered in the shuttle bay. Director Yilan stood before them with several assistants. 13 contestants from 12 different species, she announced. "Each of you will be dropped in a different area of the test zone. The areas are 50 miles apart. You will not see each other during the test." She pointed to a large screen showing the planet surface. "The test zone covers 1,000 square miles. It has everything you need to survive, but finding it is your challenge." Marcus studied the map. He saw forests, rivers, hills, and open areas. It looked a lot like the wilderness areas he knew back home. "Monitoring drones will watch you at all times. Director Yilan continued. They record everything but cannot help you. If you get seriously injured or give up, activate your emergency beacon. A rescue ship will come immediately. She looked at each contestant. Remember, this is not about being the strongest or the smartest. This is about surviving. Some of you will be tempted to do more than survive. Resist this temptation. Extra effort wastes energy. Energy you might need later. Marcus thought this was strange advice. Back home, his grandfather always said the best way to survive was to improve your situation. Make life easier, not harder. The shuttles launched one by one. Marcus was in the 7th shuttle. Through the window, he watched the planet grow larger. The forest looked thick and green. Rivers sparkled in the sunlight. Your drop zone is Valley 7, the pilot said. She was the same species as Director Yilan. It has a stream, forest, and meadows. Good hunting and foraging. The shuttle landed in a clearing beside a clear stream. Marcus grabbed his small pack of tools and stepped outside. The air smelled clean and fresh. Birds sang in the trees. The stream bubbled over smooth rocks. 30 days, the pilot called out. Good luck, human. The shuttle took off, leaving Marcus alone in the wilderness. He stood quietly for several minutes, listening and observing. The forest was full of life. Squirrels chattered in the trees. Fish jumped in the stream. Flowers bloomed in the meadow. Most contestants would immediately start looking for shelter. Marcus had a different plan. He pulled out a piece of paper and a pencil stub from his pocket. He began walking upstream, making notes about everything he saw. Water sources, types of trees, animal signs, edible plants, stone deposits, clay banks. Everything might be useful later. By evening, Marcus had explored 3 miles of the valley. He found 2 more streams, a small waterfall, several groves of nut trees, and a hillside covered with berry bushes. There were deer trails, rabbit burrows, and signs of larger animals. Most important, he found something the test planners probably did not expect. This valley was special. It sat where several different environments met. River valley, pine forest, deciduous woods, and grassland all came together here. That meant more types of plants and animals than usual. As darkness fell, Marcus built a simple lean-to shelter against a large rock. He started a small fire and cooked fish he caught with his hands in a shallow pool. The fish tasted excellent. Tomorrow he would start building something much more interesting than a basic survival shelter. He had ideas, big ideas. In his monitoring station above the planet, Director Yilan watched the video feed from Marcus's area. The human had spent all day walking around instead of building proper shelter. This worried her. The human might be the first elimination, she told her assistant. He does not seem to understand the basics of survival. The assistant, a young member of her species, looked at the screen. He found a lot of resources today. Maybe he has a plan. Director Yilan shook her head. Survival is about conservation, not exploration. He wasted too much energy today. In a few days, he will be too weak to build proper shelter. She switched to check the other contestants. Jake the Grimlock had built a strong stone shelter. Lisa the Velthari had found a perfect hiding spot under thick bushes. David the Nexari had calculated the exact size shelter he needed and built it efficiently. All of them followed proper survival doctrine. Find shelter, conserve energy, wait for rescue. The human was different. Director Yilan did not understand why, but it made her nervous. In 30 years of running survival tests, she had never seen a contestant spend the first day exploring instead of building shelter. She made a note in her log. Human contestant shows poor survival instincts. Predicted elimination by day 5, she was very wrong. Marcus woke up on his 3rd morning in the valley feeling rested and excited. His simple lean-to shelter had kept him dry during the night rain. But today he would start building something much better. While other contestants across the planet struggled to keep their basic shelters from falling down, Marcus began cutting down trees. He chose straight pine logs about 8 inches thick. His small axe worked slowly, but he did not mind. He enjoyed the rhythm of chopping. In the monitoring station above, Director Yilan watched with growing confusion. "What is the human doing?" she asked her assistant. The assistant checked the readings. "He is cutting down trees. Large ones." "That makes no sense," Director Yilan said. "He already has shelter. Why waste energy on bigger logs?" She switched cameras to check other contestants. Jake the Grimlock had spent 2 days improving his stone fortress. It looked very strong but was barely big enough for him to lie down inside. Lisa the Velthari had woven grass into her natural shelter. It was almost invisible and perfectly camouflaged. David the Nixari sat inside his calculated shelter, writing notes on a piece of bark. His shelter was exactly the right size to conserve body heat. No bigger, no smaller. All contestants are following proper survival procedures, Director Yelan noted, except the human. Marcus spent all morning cutting trees. By afternoon, he had 20 logs, each about 12 feet long. Then he began moving them to a flat area near the stream. This took enormous effort. Each log weighed over 100 pounds. He will exhaust himself, Director Yelan predicted. Survival is about saving energy, not wasting it on big projects. But Marcus did not look tired. He had been doing hard physical work his entire life. His muscles were used to heavy lifting. More important, he had a plan. Marcus began notching the logs with his axe and knife. He cut careful grooves so the logs would fit together tightly. His grandfather had taught him this technique for building log cabins. It took skill but created very strong walls. As the sun set on day 3, Marcus had the first 2 rows of logs in place. The beginning of his cabin was 8 feet wide and 12 feet long, much bigger than any other contestant's shelter. Madness, Director Yelan muttered. He is building a house, not a survival shelter. Her assistant looked thoughtful. Maybe that is how humans survive. By making their environment better. Director Yelan shook her head. Impossible. Survival is about enduring hardship, not avoiding it. This human will learn that lesson when his energy runs out. Day 4 brought new challenges. Light rain fell all morning. Jake's stone fortress kept him dry but was cold and dark inside. Lisa's grass shelter leaked in several places. David's calculated shelter worked perfectly, but he was getting bored and restless. Marcus worked in the rain without stopping. His partially built cabin walls already provided some protection. He cut more logs and raised the walls higher. By evening, the walls were 4 feet tall. That night, Marcus slept inside his partially completed cabin. The log walls blocked the wind much better than his old lean-to. He felt warmer and more comfortable. Day 5 was a disaster for most contestants. Heavy rain fell for 6 hours. Jake's fortress flooded because he had not thought about drainage. He spent the day cold and wet. Lisa had to abandon her grass shelter completely when it fell apart. She huddled under a rock overhang, miserable and soaked. David's shelter held up but barely. Water leaked through the roof in 3 places. He used his metal pot to catch drips but could not sleep well. 2 contestants activated their emergency beacons and quit the test. They were cold, wet, and discouraged. Marcus continued building his cabin walls. The rain did not bother him much. His log construction was solid and getting stronger every day. He had learned to plan for weather by watching how his grandfather built things to last. 5 eliminations in 5 days, Director Yelan noted. Normal for this test. But the human should be next. He has wasted enormous energy on unnecessary construction. Marcus was not wasted or tired. He had been eating well. His exploring on the first day had shown him where to find food. He knew which berries were ripe, where fish gathered in the stream, and which nuts were ready to harvest. More important, he had discovered something amazing. The valley contained everything needed for advanced construction. Clay by the stream for mortar, sand for mixing, stones of different sizes, several types of wood with different properties. On day 6, Marcus began building a roof. He cut thinner logs and laid them across the walls. Then he split wooden shingles to keep rain out. The work was difficult, but he enjoyed solving problems. Jake managed to fix his fortress drainage, but was still cold and uncomfortable. Lisa found a small cave to shelter in. It was better than sleeping in the rain, but cramped and dark. David calculated that his food supplies would last exactly 30 days if he ate very small portions. Marcus had no food worries. His location was rich with resources. He caught fish easily with traps made from woven sticks. He found 3 types of edible nuts. Berry bushes grew thick along the stream. There were even wild vegetables that tasted good when cooked. Day 7 brought sunshine. Marcus finished his cabin roof and built a door from split logs. His shelter was now a real house with 4 solid walls, a waterproof roof, and a door that closed properly. Director Yelan stared at the monitoring screen in disbelief. That is not a survival shelter. That is permanent construction. Should we check the rules? Her assistant asked. Maybe he is violating regulations. Director Yelan reviewed the test guidelines carefully. Contestants could use any materials found in the test zone. They could build any type of shelter. There were no size limits or construction restrictions. He is not breaking any rules, she admitted. But this goes against everything we know about survival psychology. Contestants are supposed to endure hardship, not eliminate it. Marcus was not done building. On day 8, he began working on furniture. He built a simple bed frame and filled it with soft pine needles and grass, much more comfortable than sleeping on the ground. He carved a table and chair from a large stump. He made shelves to organize his tools and supplies. His cabin was becoming a comfortable home. Other contestants noticed changes in the daily reports. Somehow the human was gaining weight while they were all losing it. His energy level stayed high while theirs dropped. His mood remained cheerful while they grew tired and discouraged. Jake tried to copy some of Marcus's techniques but lacked the knowledge and tools. He managed to improve his fortress slightly, but it was still basically a stone cave. Lisa attempted to build a larger shelter but did not know how to join logs properly. Her construction fell down twice before she gave up and returned to her small cave. David calculated that building a larger shelter would use too much energy. He stayed in his minimal shelter, growing more uncomfortable each day. By day 9, Marcus had transformed his section of the valley. His solid cabin looked like it could last for years. He had cleared paths to water sources and food gathering areas. He built simple bridges over muddy spots. Most amazing of all, he had begun construction on something no survival contestant had ever attempted. Using stones from the stream bed, he was building a water wheel. A water wheel, Director Yelin said in amazement. In a survival test. What does he plan to do with water power? Her assistant checked the technical readings. The wheel design appears functional. If completed, it could generate significant mechanical energy. Director Yelin felt confused and worried. In 30 years of survival testing, no contestant had ever tried to harness natural forces. They focused on basic needs like food, water, and shelter. This human seemed to think survival meant improving his situation rather than simply enduring it. Even stranger, his approach was working. He looked healthier and happier than any contestant in the test's history. Send a message to headquarters, Director Yelin ordered. We may need to review our understanding of survival behavior. This human is doing something completely new. Marcus finished his water wheel on day 10. Clear stream water flowed over the wooden paddles, turning the wheel steadily. He had built it to power a grain mill made from 2 round stones. Now he could grind nuts and seeds into flour. Combined with fish, berries, and vegetables, he had the ingredients for real meals instead of just survival rations. As day 10 ended, Marcus sat on his cabin porch watching the sunset reflect off the stream. His water wheel turned slowly and steadily. His comfortable home was warm and dry. Tomorrow he would start his next project. He had no idea that his activities were causing a crisis of understanding among the galaxy's survival experts. To Marcus, he was just doing what humans had always done when dropped in a new place: make it better. Day 15 brought warm sunshine and clear skies. Marcus stood outside his log cabin drinking hot tea made from local herbs. His water wheel turned steadily, grinding nuts into flour. Smoke rose from his chimney, carrying the smell of fresh bread. Other contestants across the planet were having a much harder time. Jake the Grimlock warrior had managed to improve his stone fortress, but finding enough food was becoming difficult. He spent most of his energy hunting and foraging, leaving little time for other activities. Lisa the Velthari scout had mastered hiding and camouflage, but her small cave shelter was cramped and uncomfortable. She caught fish and gathered berries skillfully, but barely had enough food each day. The constant worry about survival was wearing her down. David the Nixari engineer had calculated his energy needs perfectly, but his tiny shelter felt like a prison. He had enough food to last 30 days, but he was bored and restless. His efficient approach worked, but it was not pleasant. Marcus faced none of these problems. His cabin provided excellent shelter. His water wheel and grain mill produced fresh flour daily. His fish traps and berry gathering gave him more food than he could eat. Instead of just surviving, he was thriving. Today he started a new project. Behind his cabin, Marcus began building a workshop. He needed a place to make better tools and work on larger projects. The workshop would have good light, storage space, and room to work with wood and stone. Director Yelin watched from the monitoring station with growing amazement. The human is expanding his settlement. This is not survival behavior. Her assistant pulled up comparison data from other contestants. The human has gained 5 pounds since the test started. All other contestants have lost weight. That should be impossible, Director Yilan said. Survival tests are about resource scarcity. There should not be enough food for weight gain. But Marcus had discovered something the test designers missed. The valley where he was dropped contained an unusual abundance of resources. Where 3 different environments met, there were more types of plants and animals than normal. More important, Marcus knew how to use these resources efficiently. His grandfather had taught him old skills that most civilized beings had forgotten. How to preserve food, how to build tools, how to make simple machines work. Marcus spent the morning cutting lumber for his workshop walls. His axe and knife had become very sharp from constant use and careful maintenance. He worked steadily but without rushing, enjoying the physical activity. By afternoon, he had the workshop frame completed. The building was smaller than his cabin but well designed. Large windows would provide good light for detailed work. Strong benches would hold heavy projects. That evening, Marcus cooked dinner on his stone fireplace. Fresh fish, wild vegetables, and bread made from ground nuts. He had even learned to make a simple cheese from goat milk. A small herd of wild goats lived in the upper valley, and Marcus had gained their trust with regular feeding. Director Yilan reviewed the daily reports with confusion. The human's calorie intake exceeds standard survival requirements by 40%. Where is all this food coming from? The monitoring data showed Marcus eating meals that would be considered good in most civilized restaurants. Fresh protein, vegetables, fruits, grains, and even dairy products. This was supposed to be a harsh survival environment. Maybe his location has unusual resource density, the assistant suggested. All test zones are carefully selected for equal difficulty, Director Yilan replied. The human should be facing the same challenges as everyone else. But Marcus was not facing the same challenges. While other contestants focused on basic survival, he had created systems that made life easier. His fish traps caught food while he worked on other projects. His nut and berry gathering areas produced more than he needed. His workshop let him build better tools. Day 16 brought the first major storm of the test period. Heavy rain and strong winds lasted for 8 hours. Lightning flashed across the sky. Thunder shook the ground. Jake's stone fortress leaked badly. He spent the storm cold, wet, and miserable. The thick walls protected him from wind, but water came through gaps he could not seal. Lisa's cave stayed dry, but she was trapped inside the small space all day. She could not hunt or gather food during the storm. Her supply of dried berries ran low. David's calculated shelter held up well against the weather, but he worried constantly. His precise planning had not included severe storms. He wondered if his food supplies would last if more storms delayed his foraging. Marcus watched the storm from inside his warm, dry cabin. His solid log construction and tight roof kept out all wind and rain. The stone chimney drew perfectly, filling the room with comfortable heat. More impressive, his water wheel kept turning even during the storm. The increased water flow actually made it spin faster. His grain mill continued working, producing flour throughout the bad weather. When the storm ended, Marcus had actually benefited from it. The heavy rain filled natural pools where he collected water. It washed nuts and fruits down from trees, making gathering easier. The wet conditions brought out edible mushrooms and plants. The storm should have set back all contestants, Director Yilan noted, but the human seems to have gained advantages from it. Day 17 was spent expanding his food production systems. Marcus built a smokehouse for preserving meat and fish. The small building used carefully controlled heat to dry food so it would last for weeks without spoiling. He also began construction of raised garden beds. Using rich soil from the forest and compost from kitchen scraps, Marcus prepared areas to grow vegetables. He had found wild versions of several food plants that could be cultivated. Jake tried to build a smokehouse like Marcus, but lacked the knowledge and materials. His attempt collapsed when he could not control the heat properly. He wasted a day's catch of fish when they spoiled instead of smoking. Lisa attempted to create food storage, but did not know how to prevent spoilage. Her gathered berries and nuts went bad quickly in the humid cave environment. David calculated that food preservation would use too much energy. He continued eating only what he needed each day, with no reserves for emergencies. Marcus finished his smokehouse and immediately began preserving the extra fish from his traps. Soon he had enough smoked protein to last for weeks. This gave him freedom to work on other projects instead of spending time hunting every day. Day 18 brought visitors to Marcus's valley. A family of deer discovered his cleared areas and began grazing on the tender grass. Marcus enjoyed watching them and made sure not to disturb their feeding. The deer were not afraid of him. Marcus moved slowly and quietly around them, and they soon accepted his presence. This was unusual. Most contestants scared away local wildlife, making hunting much harder. Marcus understood that the deer were actually helpful. Their grazing kept his cleared areas neat and tidy. Their droppings fertilized his garden areas. In exchange, he provided them with safety and good feeding spots. The human has domesticated wild animals, Director Yilan observed with amazement. In 18 days, he has created a functioning farm. Her assistant checked the regulations again. There are no rules against animal domestication. Technically, he is still using only resources found in the test zone. Marcus spent the afternoon building furniture for his workshop, a workbench, tool storage, and seating areas. He carved everything from local wood using only hand tools, but the results looked professional. His knife had become incredibly sharp through constant use and care. His axe cut through wood like it was butter. Marcus had learned to maintain his tools perfectly, keeping them in better condition than when the test started. Day 19 was devoted to completing his workshop. Marcus installed the windows, built shelving, and organized his growing collection of handmade tools. Chisels, hammers, saws, and measuring devices all carved from wood, stone, and bone. The workshop was a masterpiece of simple engineering. Good light, efficient storage, and comfortable working conditions. Marcus could now undertake projects that would have been impossible with just basic tools. That evening, he sat on his cabin porch carving decorative details into a wooden bowl. The work was relaxing after a day of heavy construction. His hands moved skillfully, creating patterns that turned a simple bowl into art. Director Yilan reviewed the day's monitoring data with growing concern. The human was not just surviving the test. He was creating a permanent settlement that could function indefinitely. This changes everything we know about survival psychology, she told her assistant. Other species focus on enduring hardship until rescue. This human eliminates hardship and creates prosperity. As day 19 ended, Marcus had transformed his valley into something unprecedented in survival test history. A comfortable home, efficient food production, and a workshop capable of advanced manufacturing. Tomorrow he would begin his most ambitious project yet. Something that would make the monitoring team question whether this was still a survival test or something entirely different. Marcus looked at the stars and smiled. He was having the best camping trip of his life. Day 20 dawned bright and clear in Marcus's valley. He stood outside his expanded cabin, stretching and enjoying his morning tea. What had started as a simple log house now looked more like a small resort. 3 buildings connected by covered walkways surrounded a central courtyard. The main cabin contained his living quarters and kitchen. The workshop buzzed with activity as his water wheel powered various tools. The newest addition was a bathhouse with running water piped from the stream through carved wooden channels. Marcus had spent the previous evening soaking in hot water heated by stones from his fire. The luxury felt amazing after days of hard work. More important, it proved his engineering skills could create real comfort even in the wilderness. Director Yilan stared at the monitoring screens in disbelief. The human has built a hot tub, in a survival test. Her assistant checked the construction details. The plumbing system is quite sophisticated. Gravity-fed water supply, heated stone thermal mass, drainage back to the stream, all built with primitive tools. This is not survival, Director Yilan said. This is vacation resort construction. The other contestants were having a very different experience. Jake the Grimlock warrior had managed to expand his stone fortress, but it remained cold and uncomfortable. Finding enough food took most of his time and energy. He was losing weight and growing weaker. Lisa the Velthari scout had improved her camouflage skills and food gathering, but lived in constant discomfort. Her small cave shelter cramped her movements. She slept poorly on the hard stone floor. The stress was wearing her down mentally and physically. David the Nexari engineer followed his calculated survival plan perfectly, but was miserable. His tiny shelter felt like a prison. His carefully rationed food portions left him constantly hungry. He counted down the days until rescue like a prisoner waiting for release. Marcus faced none of these problems. His settlement provided every comfort he could want. Clean running water, hot baths, comfortable furniture, excellent food, and spacious buildings. He woke up each morning excited to work on new projects. Today he began construction of his most ambitious project yet. An outdoor pavilion overlooking the stream where visitors could relax and enjoy the scenery. Not that he expected visitors, but Marcus built things to last and to impress. The pavilion required careful engineering. The wooden platform had to be strong enough for multiple people, but elegant enough to look good. The roof needed to keep out rain while allowing cooling breezes. Support posts had to resist strong winds. Marcus spent the morning selecting the best trees for support beams. He had learned which types of wood worked best for different purposes: pine for basic construction, oak for strength, cedar for weather resistance, birch for flexibility. By afternoon, he had the pavilion framework completed. The structure was 12 feet wide and 20 feet long, positioned to capture the best view of the waterfall upstream. Carved railings would keep people safe while providing comfortable places to lean and watch the water. That evening, Marcus tested his new hot tub system. The heated stones warmed the water to a perfect temperature. He relaxed in the wooden basin, watching stars appear in the darkening sky. This was better than any resort he had visited back on Earth. News of Marcus's unprecedented performance had spread throughout the Galactic Survival Institute. Scientists and survival experts from dozens of worlds requested access to the monitoring feeds. Everyone wanted to understand how one human had transformed survival into luxury. Dr. Elena Vasquez, the Institute's chief psychologist, reviewed the data with amazement. This human exhibits survival behavior we have never documented. Instead of conservation and endurance, he shows expansion and optimization. Is it possible his species evolved different survival instincts? Asked her research assistant. That seems likely, Dr. Vasquez replied. Most intelligent species develop technology to avoid environmental challenges. Perhaps humans develop technology to master environmental challenges. Day 21 brought Marcus's first major test of his resort facilities. A severe thunderstorm struck the valley with hurricane-force winds and flooding rain. The kind of storm that usually ended survival tests early. Jake's stone fortress flooded completely. He spent 12 hours standing in knee-deep water, cold and exhausted. When the storm ended, most of his stored food was ruined. He seriously considered activating his emergency beacon. Lisa's cave stayed dry, but falling rocks from the storm damaged her shelter entrance. She had to dig herself out and repair the cave mouth. The work took most of the day and left her hands bloody and sore. David's precisely calculated shelter held up structurally, but leaked in 6 places. He spent the storm catching drips in containers and trying to stay dry. His food supplies got wet and some spoiled. His careful planning had not accounted for such severe weather. Marcus experienced the same storm very differently. His solid buildings easily withstood the wind and rain. His covered walkways let him move between buildings without getting wet. His hot tub provided warmth and comfort during the cold hours. Most impressive, his water wheel and mill actually worked better during the storm. The increased water flow spun the wheel faster, grinding more flour than usual. The storm that devastated other contestants made Marcus's systems more productive. Impossible, Director Yilan muttered, watching the feeds. The same weather that is destroying other contestants is helping the human. When the storm ended, Marcus had actually gained resources. The flooding brought new fish into his stream channels. Fallen trees provided more building materials. Rain-washed soil in his garden areas would help plants grow better. Day 22 was spent adding decorative touches to his resort. Marcus carved artistic details into railings and furniture. He planted flowers around his buildings. He built stone pathways connecting different areas of his settlement. The work was not necessary for survival, but Marcus enjoyed making beautiful things. His grandfather had taught him that good craftsmanship was its own reward. If you were going to build something, build it right and make it look good. Marcus also began brewing an alcoholic beverage from fermented fruits. The process required careful temperature control and timing, but the results were excellent. A mild, pleasant drink that complemented his evening meals perfectly. Director Yilan watched him toast the sunset with his homemade wine and shook her head in amazement. The human is celebrating, in a survival test. Day 23 brought an unexpected development. Long-range sensors detected movement in the valley next to Marcus's area. One of the eliminated contestants was approaching his location. Should we prevent contact? Asked the assistant. Director Yelan considered the options. The test rules did not specifically prohibit interaction between contestants, only between contestants and outside help. Let them meet. I want to see what happens. Tom Wilson was a Nexari engineer who had quit the test on day 8 when his shelter collapsed in a storm. He had spent 2 weeks at the rescue station recovering from exhaustion and exposure. Now he was returning as an observer to study human survival techniques. Tom climbed the ridge separating the valleys and looked down at Marcus's settlement. What he saw defied belief. Instead of a desperate survivor barely clinging to life, he found a thriving resort that would be impressive on any civilized world. Marcus was sitting on his pavilion deck, reading a book he had made from pressed plant fibers. A mug of his homemade beverage sat on a carved wooden table beside him. His water wheel turned steadily in the background, grinding grain for tomorrow's bread. "Excuse me?" Tom called out. "Are you the human contestant, Marcus Thompson?" Marcus looked up and waved. "Yes, that's me. Are you here about the test?" Tom walked down into the valley, staring at the buildings and improvements. "I was eliminated from the test 2 weeks ago. I came back to see how you were doing. But this is incredible. How did you build all this?" Marcus gave Tom a tour of his settlement. The Nexari engineer was amazed by every detail: the solid construction, the efficient systems, the comfortable living spaces. It was better than his own home on a developed world. "This is not survival," Tom said in wonder. "This is resort development," Marcus shrugged. "I just built what I needed to be comfortable. Want to stay for dinner? I have plenty of food." Tom accepted the invitation eagerly. The meal was excellent. Fresh fish, vegetables, bread, and cheese, all prepared with skill and served in pleasant surroundings. After weeks of survival rations, it tasted like a feast. "I have to ask," Tom said over dessert. "Would you consider taking guests? Paying guests? This place is amazing." Marcus had not considered the commercial possibilities of his settlement, but Tom's suggestion made sense. He had built facilities for multiple people. His food production systems created more than he could eat alone. Why not share the experience? "What kind of payment?" Marcus asked. "Galactic credits. Standard resort rates. Maybe 50 credits per night including meals?" Marcus did the math. That was good money, and he enjoyed having company. "Sure, why not? Consider yourself my first guest." As day 23 ended, Marcus Thompson had achieved something unprecedented in galactic history. He had turned a survival test into a profitable business venture. Tomorrow would bring even more surprises. Day 24 brought surprising news to Marcus's valley. Director Yelan contacted him directly through the emergency communication system. This was the first time any test official had spoken to a contestant during the 30-day period. "Marcus Thompson." Her voice crackled through the small speaker. "This is Director Yelan of the Galactic Survival Institute. We need to discuss your situation." Marcus was sitting on his pavilion deck enjoying breakfast with Tom. The eliminated Nexari contestant had spent a comfortable night in the guest room Marcus had prepared. Both men looked up at the speaker with interest. "Good morning, Director," Marcus replied. "Is there a problem with my test performance?" "That depends on your perspective," Director Yelan said carefully. "We understand you are now hosting other contestants who were eliminated from the test. This raises questions about test procedures." Marcus looked at Tom, who was eating fresh bread and honey with obvious pleasure. "Tom is paying for room and board. 50 credits per night. I figured that was fair for what I provide." Long silence came from the speaker. Finally, Director Yelan spoke again. "You are charging money for accommodation during a survival test?" "Well, yes," Marcus said. "Tom wanted to stay and study my building techniques. I have extra space and plenty of food. Why not make it a business arrangement?" Director Yelan had never encountered this situation in 30 years of running survival tests. The rules covered interaction between contestants and outside help, but said nothing about commercial activities within the test zone. "I need to review this situation with my superiors," she said. "In the meantime, please continue your test as normal." Tom grinned at Marcus after the communication ended. "I think you just broke their entire understanding of how survival tests work." More visitors arrived that afternoon. Beth Martinez was a Velthari survival instructor who had heard about Marcus's remarkable performance. She came to observe his techniques and possibly write a research paper about human survival behavior. Mike Johnson was a Grimlock military engineer interested in Marcus's construction methods. His people were known for building strong fortifications, but Marcus's combination of strength and comfort impressed him. Marcus welcomed both visitors warmly. He had plenty of guest space and enjoyed the company. Beth was fascinated by his food production systems. Mike studied his building techniques with professional interest. "Your pavilion design is excellent," Mike said, examining the wooden joints. "Strong enough for my people, but elegant enough for any species. How did you learn such advanced carpentry?" "My grandfather taught me," Marcus explained. "These are old human techniques from before we had power tools. You learn to make strong joints when you cannot use metal fasteners." Beth was amazed by Marcus's food variety. "You have created a complete ecosystem here. Protein from fish and game, vegetables from your gardens, grains from your mill, dairy from the goats. Most survival experts focus on finding enough calories to stay alive. Why just survive when you can thrive?" Marcus asked. "Life is better when you have good food and comfortable shelter." That evening, Marcus prepared dinner for 5 people. The meal featured fresh fish, roasted vegetables, bread, cheese, and his homemade fruit wine. His guests praised every dish enthusiastically. "This is better than most restaurants on my home world," Tom declared. "How much would you charge for a full resort experience?" Marcus had been thinking about this. His settlement could easily accommodate a dozen guests. He had the space, the food production, and the facilities. "Maybe 100 credits per person per night, including all meals and activities." "That is very reasonable," Beth said. "Wilderness resort rates on developed worlds start at 300 credits per night." Word spread quickly through the galactic community. By day 26, Marcus had a waiting list of beings who wanted to visit his wilderness resort. The story of a human who turned a survival test into a luxury vacation had captured imaginations across the galaxy. Director Yilan arrived for a personal inspection on day 27. She brought 2 assistants and a team of evaluators. They came expecting to find rule violations or evidence of outside assistance. Instead, they found a masterpiece of wilderness engineering that operated entirely within test guidelines. Every building used materials found in the test zone. Every tool was handmade from local resources. Every technique could be accomplished with the basic implements provided to all contestants. "This is remarkable work," Director Yilan admitted, touring the hot tub facility. "But I must ask, do you understand this is supposed to be a survival test?" Marcus looked puzzled. "I am surviving. Better than anyone else, I think." "Survival tests are about enduring hardship," Director Yilan explained. "Contestants are supposed to suffer until rescue arrives. You have eliminated all hardship and created luxury. Why would anyone want to suffer if they could be comfortable instead?" Marcus asked. "That seems like poor planning." Director Yilan had no good answer to that question. From a logical standpoint, Marcus was absolutely right. Creating better living conditions was more intelligent than enduring bad conditions unnecessarily. The inspection team spent 2 days examining every aspect of Marcus's settlement. They tested his water systems, evaluated his food production, and studied his construction techniques. Everything was solid, functional, and impressive. "No rule violations," the chief evaluator reported. "All materials and methods are within test guidelines. The contestant has simply applied them more creatively than anyone anticipated." Director Yilan faced an unprecedented decision. Marcus had clearly passed the survival test. In fact, he had passed it so thoroughly that he created a profitable business in the process. But this challenged everything the Institute thought they knew about survival behavior. "What do you want to do after the test ends?" she asked Marcus. Marcus looked around his valley paradise. "I was thinking of buying this land from the planetary government. Continue operating as a wilderness resort. I have customers lined up already. You want to stay here permanently?" "Why not?" "This is a beautiful location with everything I need. I could expand the facilities, add more guest rooms, maybe build a spa area by the hot springs I found upstream." Director Yilan realized that Marcus had not just passed the survival test. He had found a new home and career. The test zone would never be the same. Day 28 brought a celebration dinner. Marcus invited all his current guests, plus Director Yilan and her team. The meal featured the best of everything he had learned to prepare during his month in the wilderness. "A toast," Tom proposed, raising his mug of fruit wine, "to Marcus Thompson, who proved that humans do not just survive. They prosper." Everyone drank to the toast, even Director Yilan. She had to admit that Marcus's approach was superior to traditional survival doctrine. Why endure hardship when intelligence and hard work could create comfort? "I have a proposal," she said to Marcus. "The Galactic Survival Institute would like to hire you as an instructor. Teach other species how to apply human survival techniques. Marcus considered the offer. Could I teach classes here at my resort? That would be perfect. Students could experience your methods firsthand. The deal was struck over dessert. Marcus would continue operating his wilderness resort while also serving as a survival instructor for the Institute. His valley would become a training center for advanced survival techniques. Day 29 was spent preparing for the official end of the test. Marcus organized his records, documented his construction techniques, and prepared reports for the Institute archives. His guests helped with the work, eager to learn his methods. The valley buzzed with activity as everyone contributed to preserving knowledge that could help future contestants. You have changed survival training forever, Beth told Marcus. Other instructors will have to completely rethink their approaches. Marcus shrugged modestly. I just did what my grandfather taught me. Work hard, build well, take care of your environment, and it will take care of you. That evening, Marcus sat on his pavilion deck watching the sunset paint the sky in brilliant colors. His water wheel turned steadily, his gardens grew lush and green, and his comfortable buildings stood solid against the wilderness. In 1 month, he had transformed a harsh survival challenge into a thriving business and comfortable home. Tomorrow would officially end the test, but for Marcus it was just the beginning of a new adventure. Day 30 arrived with golden sunshine and gentle breezes. Marcus Thompson stood in the courtyard of his wilderness resort, surrounded by friends who had gathered to witness the official end of his survival test. In 30 days, he had achieved something unprecedented in galactic history. The other surviving contestants were extracted from their test zones that morning. Jake the Grimlock warrior emerged exhausted and 20 pounds lighter. He had survived by pure determination, but the experience had nearly broken him. Lisa the Velthari scout completed the test successfully, but looked tired and stressed. Her excellent camouflage and hunting skills had kept her alive, but she had endured constant discomfort and anxiety. David the Nexari engineer finished exactly as planned. His precise calculations had worked perfectly, but he looked like a prisoner finally released from jail. He had survived, but had not enjoyed a single day of the experience. Marcus, by contrast, had gained weight and looked healthier than when he started. His skin was tanned from outdoor work, his muscles were stronger from construction activity, and his eyes sparkled with satisfaction and energy. Director Yelan conducted the official completion ceremony in Marcus's pavilion. Representatives from 12 worlds watched via video link as she presented the traditional survival certification and prize money. Marcus Thompson, she announced formally. You have successfully completed the Galactic Survival Institute's 30-day wilderness challenge. You are hereby certified as a survival expert and awarded 100,000 galactic credits. Applause echoed from the assembled guests and video audiences, but Director Yelan was not finished speaking. However, she continued, your performance has exceeded all previous standards. You have not merely survived extreme conditions. You have created prosperity, established commerce, and demonstrated survival techniques unknown to galactic science. She paused and looked around the beautiful resort that had been built in just 1 month. Therefore, the Institute is creating a new certification level. Marcus Thompson, you are our first recipient of the Master Survival Engineer certification. More applause, this time with cheering from his guests. Tom the Nexari engineer led a chant of Marcus Marcus that was picked up by beings across the galaxy watching the ceremony. Director Yelan presented Marcus with an additional award of 50,000 credits and a contract to serve as the Institute's chief survival instructor. His valley would become the primary training center for advanced wilderness skills. Thank you, Marcus said when the formal ceremony ended. But I have to point out that everything I did here came from knowledge my grandfather taught me. These are old human techniques that were common on Earth before we developed advanced technology. That makes it even more remarkable, Director Yelan replied. Your species preserved practical skills that other civilizations abandoned. This gives humans a unique advantage in frontier environments. The celebration dinner that evening featured Marcus's finest cooking. 3 courses of expertly prepared wilderness cuisine served in his handcrafted dining room to guests representing 7 different species. The meal would have impressed restaurants on the most sophisticated worlds. I still cannot believe what you accomplished, Jake the Grimlock said, savoring the fish that Marcus had caught, smoked, and seasoned with wild herbs. My people are known for toughness, but we think survival means enduring pain. You made survival into pleasure. Lisa nodded in agreement. Velthari survival doctrine teaches us to hide from hardship and take only what we need. You faced hardship directly and created abundance. David was fascinated by the engineering aspects. Your systems are elegantly efficient. The water wheel powers multiple functions. Your buildings provide maximum comfort with minimum materials. It is brilliant design using primitive tools. Marcus served dessert made from wild berries and honey, along with glasses of his improved fruit wine. The secret is not the tools, he explained. It is the attitude. Most beings see wilderness as an enemy to be fought or endured. Humans see wilderness as a partner to work with. Over the following weeks, Marcus's story spread throughout the galaxy. News services called him the human who built paradise and the contestant who broke survival science. His resort was booked solid for the next 2 years. The Galactic Survival Institute completely revised their training programs based on Marcus's techniques. Instead of teaching endurance and resource conservation, they began teaching environmental improvement and system building. Other human contestants started applying for survival tests, eager to prove that Marcus was not unique among his species. The results amazed galactic scientists. Humans consistently outperformed other species by creating better living conditions rather than simply tolerating bad ones. Marcus purchased the land, rights to his valley from the planetary government, and expanded his resort facilities. He built additional guest cabins, a conference center for survival training classes, and a spa complex around the natural hot springs. His business thrived beyond all expectations. Beings from across the galaxy came to experience human-style survival and learn construction techniques that their own civilizations had forgotten. Marcus became wealthy while teaching skills his grandfather considered basic knowledge. The most popular program was the Thompson Method Survival Course. Students spent 2 weeks learning to build comfortable shelters, establish food production systems, and create tools from natural materials. Graduation required constructing a small cabin using only hand tools. Humans think differently about challenges, Marcus told his first class of alien students. When we see a problem, our instinct is to fix it permanently rather than work around it temporarily. This makes us natural engineers and builders. Beth, the Velthari survival instructor, became his assistant director, fascinated by human approaches to problem solving. Your species has a unique gift, she told Marcus. You see opportunities where others see obstacles. Marcus's success inspired other humans to seek careers in wilderness development. Within 5 years, humans dominated the galactic frontier development industry. Their ability to create comfortable living conditions in harsh environments made them invaluable for establishing new colonies. The survival test where Marcus built his resort became a permanent training facility. The valley was renamed Thompson Valley in his honor. His original cabin became a museum, preserved exactly as it was on day 30 of his test. Director Yilan retired from the Survival Institute to become Marcus's business partner. Together, they established wilderness resorts on a dozen frontier worlds, each one built using human techniques and serving as a training center for survival skills. You changed everything, she told Marcus on the 5th anniversary of his test completion. They were sitting on the pavilion deck, watching a new class of students learn to build water wheels. Before you, survival meant suffering. Now it means creating. Marcus smiled and sipped his wine, watching the sun set over the valley that had become his home and his legacy. My grandfather always said that any situation can be improved with enough hard work and imagination. I just proved he was right. The resort's guest book, carved from local wood and bound with handmade leather, contained thousands of entries from visitors representing every known intelligent species. They all marveled at what one human had accomplished in 30 days with nothing but basic tools and an unshakable belief that life should be comfortable, not just survivable. Marcus's story became required reading at survival schools throughout the galaxy. It demonstrated the fundamental difference between human and alien approaches to adversity. Where other species saw challenges to be endured, humans saw projects to be completed. The human who turned a survival test into a luxury resort had proven that his species possessed something special, an instinct to improve any situation they encountered, no matter how difficult or hopeless it seemed. In the end, Marcus Thompson had done more than pass a survival test. He had shown the galaxy a new way to think about survival itself, not as something to be suffered through, but as an opportunity to build something better. And that, perhaps, was the most human thing of all.